You're listening to Careers and Cocktails, career talk with a twist, hosted by expert recruiter Renee Frey. Let's get this party started.
Hey party people, welcome to Careers and Cocktails. I am so excited to have Amelia Reigstad joining us today to share a ton of value bombs. But first, we are going to make her favorite drink, which is a mango martini. And now I've never had a mango martini, but this mango puree, since it's out of season in the Midwest, smells divine. So tell me, why is this your favorite cocktail?
Yes, so kudos to Washington Square Grill in downtown White Bear Lake. I started having my mango martinis there, and I just love it. I can drink them in the summer, and I can drink them in the winter.
Perfect.
Yeah.
We're going to add a little vibrant mango to our crabby winter freezing day. So first, we are going to rim the glasses with salt. So I'm going to take your glass, and we're going to dump it into, or place it into lime juice, and then we will, we have coarse salt. Wow, I'm kind of reaching a little far away here. Okay.
Thank you.
There you go, and I will do mine. And then we will get started. We have some Ketel One vodka and some Grand Marnier. So for one mango martini, you need 35 milliliters of vodka, which I already have in the shaker with ice. 45 milliliters Grand Marnier, which is also already in the shaker with ice. 30 milliliters of this delicious smelling mango puree. I can't get enough of the smell. It smells so good. I love it. And then 30 milliliters of lime juice. Squeeze that in there.
My name.
No, I was going to say Megan has, my assistant, who also edits all these videos, will normally make me squeeze the fresh lime. So today we're improvising.
Is that for one cocktail or two?
Yeah, one it says.
Wow.
All right, and we're going to shake this up and you're going to get a taste.
Okay.
Shake, shake, shake. So we're going to strain it out and serve it immediately. Oh my gosh, I can't wait.
Did you guys try these ahead of time?
No, we did not. I'm a total amateur.
Okay.
Enthusiast, and I make lots of mistakes when I make cocktails. But the good news is you can always fix them.
That's true.
All right.
A little of this, a little of that.
So you take a sip.
Okay.
I'm gonna make mine. Now I've got to measure out all my ingredients.
Cheers.
Cheers. 45 milliliters of vodka.
Interesting.
What's wrong with it?
Well, I'm thinking that the salt throws it off because it's not a margarita. So it's really salty.
Oh, okay. Do you want a straw?
Oh, a straw would be good.
Okay, well, let's get you a straw. I put in the vodka. Now I'm doing the Grand Marnier. It says it on this ingredient. Interesting.
But you know what? It makes it more fun to drink it out of a straw regardless.
There you go. See, I love salted rims, but I guess it's sweet and then salty. Is that what the...
Kinda, yeah. So now I'm going to do it this way. Okay.
Yeah, tell me the difference and we will fix it.
Okay, so now that's really good.
Okay, so no salty rim.
No salty rim.
All right, we're going to modify this recipe wherever we found it from the World Wide Web. No salted rim. Drink it out of a straw.
Don't drink this on an empty stomach.
Why? Are you
It's
empty
strong.
stomach?
No.
Oh.
But it's good.
I'm like, oh my gosh.
I pace myself through this.
All right, we got everything in here, I think. Yes. Mix it up. Get this cocktail on the road. I'm going to try it with the salt too. I'll try both of this. All right. Cheers.
Cheers.
It looks beautiful, that's for sure.
Cheers.
All right. That's very salty. Very coarse salt. But that, okay.
Really good.
Try it without the salt. That's the ticket.
Yeah.
I don't fancy the salt from either.
No.
That's delicious.
It's really good. I'm going to go buy myself that from Total Wine.
Oh my gosh, this mango mix. It's called Masters of Mixes. Handcrafted mango, daiquiri, and margarita mixer. It is delicious. Yum. So, Amelia,
Yes.
give us your elevator pitch. Tell us who you are.
Well, right now, I'm drinking a martini, which is really tasty.
It is so good. And you know what I love? So I love vodka, and I love Grand Marnier and mangoes. Oh my gosh, I can't get over the flavor. It's really good. So good.
So good, especially at 3 o'clock on the afternoon.
I know.
So me, I currently am a professor at the University of Minnesota. I teach in the Hubbard School of Journalism and Mass Communication. And I teach digital strategy, and I teach professional writing, but I also educate professionals on effective business communication in the workplace.
I love it. Is there anything you don't do? Because that was a mouthful.
No, and I'm just finishing my Ph.D.
Oh my gosh!
So
congratulations!
Like literally tomorrow. I'm submitting it tomorrow.
Or is that what we're celebrating for you this week? Because you just answered my next. Well, cheers to that.
Cheers
sister.
to 247 pages and 74,000 words.
Oh my gosh, and tell us what it's about.
So it is all about gender differences in communication styles and how that impacts workplace communication and the practice of PR.
Perfect. Yeah. Tell me more.
Oh,
So gender differences in communication. What are the key things that everyone listening should know about?
You know, it's really interesting, and granted, I've been studying it now for many, many years, but a lot of it has to do with stereotypes. So it's clear in the workplace that sure, men and women communicate differently, but there's a lot of assumptions that go on. So, you know, a stereotypical trait of a male will be aggressive, and women are more emotional, but that's all stereotypes. Obviously, not all men are aggressive in their communication style, not all women are emotional, but there's certain things that we can pay attention to. So something that I've studied for a while is something that's called a conversation ritual. So a conversation ritual example would be women tend to apologize way too often.
Oh yeah, and I don't. I'm not a typical woman, but we can talk about that in a little bit.
Sure. But, you know, and I catch myself doing it often, that I'm apologizing, but I'm not really sorry for what I'm apologizing for. Men generally see that as taking blame, so they don't tend to apologize. Sorry, man, it's the truth, at least from a research perspective.
Fascinating for my marriage,
right? Right. So generally, men, you know, don't necessarily apologize because they see that as taking blame, whereas women use it as a conversation smoother. So a transition in a conversation. So it's not that we're necessarily sorry about something, but we're using that as, you know, empathy in understanding the situation and then moving on from it.
Right. So I have gotten feedback in corporate America that I'm too direct or I'm this or that. And you know what I always say is, no, I'm Renee Frey. So see me as who I am, because I can be this, and this. I can be direct. I don't have to be emotional. Just because I was born a female doesn't matter. Like, I'm Renee Frey, so treat me as an individual. But I love that this is such a great topic.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and the feedback has been positive, so I'm rolling with it, and we'll see what comes from it.
Awesome, I love it. So what did you want to be when you grew up, Amelia?
A teacher.
Oh, you did?
Surprisingly enough, I did. I thought I was always going to be a high school English teacher. And I started dabbling in, you know, the general courses within university and really got trapped with science and math. Not my go-to, not my area. I ended up finding a public relations program that I really excelled in. So I switched gears and started, you know, public relations. I worked in the industry for a while, but I'd always kept in touch with the dean of the program. And at one point in time, she reached out and said, "Hey, do you want to teach this event management class?" And I said, "Okay, sure." And that was it. I've been teaching for almost 15 years now.
Awesome. Yeah. Cheers to that.
Yeah, cheers.
You're one of the rarities that are doing what they thought they wanted to be when they grew up, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, Amelia, we're going on the party bus.
Party bus.
You can invite anyone. They have to be alive.
Okay.
They can be famous. They don't have to be famous. Who's going with us?
Okay, it's going to be a little bit of a cliche just with, you know, recent times, but Michelle Obama.
Oh, class act.
Yeah, she really, really is. And I think that she's got this party streak in her that if you threw her on a party bus, I don't know. I think
She
it would
would
be a lot of
dance.
fun.
I think we would see
She
her
would.
dance.
She absolutely would.
What do you think she drinks?
Oh, I don't. She might be a bourbon lady.
Ooh.
I'm not a bourbon lady, but I could see her doing some bourbon, some whiskeys.
I could see that. I totally could see that. And now I know you and I share the same passion of travel.
Mhm.
Where is your favorite place you've traveled to?
It's really hard to pick just one. I've been really fortunate. I've, left my job and traveled overseas for 2.5 months at a time. I did an 18 country tour in 31 days.
Shut
back in the day.
up.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Like
which was
where?
amazing.
Where? What region of the world?
All over. I was on a bus, and it was a tour company.
You were literally on a
I was
bus?
literally on a bus.
Wow.
And just went all over. Italy, France, Croatia, Greece. So my all-time favorite is Croatia. If you
I
have
haven't
not
been there yet. Yeah.
it's fabulous. I fell in love with the country, and then kind of being able to combine my passion of teaching and traveling.
Yeah.
Reached out to the University of Dubrovnik at one point in time, and they had me over, and I was able to stay there and teach for 6 weeks.
Oh, phenomenal. Yeah. So tell us about how you leave your job for 2 months and travel.
Mm-hmm.
How do you do
So
that?
summertime and back in Vancouver. So originally I'm from Vancouver, Canada. So I've lived in the US for about 7 years or so now, but I had my own PR consultancy. So I didn't teach in the summertime, and I had my own gig. So I just left it in the hands of my reliable people and left. And
Cheers to that.
And checked in when I needed to from a beach.
I love it.
In Dubrovnik.
That's what I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've been to all over Western Europe. I haven't been to Eastern, and it's definitely on our list.
It's beautiful.
Yeah,
Greece is another favorite.
Oh, I'm going to be on a boat checking out the islands. That's
Please
what my
do.
husband and I said. We're like, we're not seeing this by
Yeah.
plane charter and land.
No.
We are going boat only, and
It's amazing.
yeah. So you speak on a variety of topics in and outside of the classroom. Can you give us like the most valuable message that you think people need to hear today?
Yeah, I think it's really important from a workplace perspective that people actually understand the challenges pertaining to effective communication. Based on my experience and my research and folks that I talk to, we don't really give a lot of thought to our communication styles.
No.
We don't give thought to how, if we don't understand each other, how that leads to miscommunication in the workplace. How that, if we did understand things, potentially that could lead to an increase of productivity, and we could get our jobs or our projects done a lot quicker if we actually communicated. So I think that would be, my main thing.
So what are tips? Like, where are people missing it? Because I just got off a phone call with a client who's an SVP of a company, and I went into the conversation fully prepared. This is what my objective is. Here's the information he needs from me. Here are the outline questions I have. What are some tips that people can arm themselves to make sure they're communicating effectively?
Right, so I think too, and that does, at least based on my research, go back to some of the gender differences that were encountered with. Is my assumption would be, and granted it's just an assumption, that the gentleman on the other end of the phone call may not have been as prepared as you.
Oh no, he was jumping into a lift on his way to the airport to catch his flight.
Right? Whereas, and it's a tendency of women, stereotypical or not, there certainly is at least...
So that's a gender. I fall into a gender thing there.
And the thing is too, it's not necessarily, all about stereotypes. There certainly are stereotypes, but my argument is that there is some truth to stereotypes.
Oh, absolutely.
Maybe not all of them, and not all of the time,
right?
But it's situational. It depends on the conversation that's taking place. So you being prepared and the gentleman not, that's not overly surprising.
Funny. That's amazing. So then tell us, what are the main communication styles between different genders?
Yeah, so I think, and I should say too, at least from my research project and my PhD that I'm just finishing up, I was looking at the male and female gender, recognizing that there certainly is a gender spectrum and that people identify with different genders.
Oh yeah,
but and
all
that's
these different pronouns. I even work with companies that the employees can designate what their pronoun is, which I can't keep up with everything myself.
Yeah, and it's the same to me. Even at the University of Minnesota, students articulate their pronouns as well in their emails. So it's something to be cognizant of. as well. So, going back to the importance of a bit of a disclaimer that, I personally recognize that there is a spectrum, but my research and my area of expertise is male and female.
Okay.
So some of those gender differences again are, women tend to be the worker bees, okay, based on my research. Men tend to be more factual, direct, to the point, the decision makers in organizations, where women will then get things done. Part of the research that I conducted, the participants were really clear about this whole concept of being a worker bee, and women felt in the workplace that the men unfortunately made all the decisions and they were just told what to do. So whether that translates across the board, there's a variety of different variables, but.
Right. So then how can women best communicate with men and vice versa? Like any quick tips you could?
Gosh, I think honestly, it's just truly recognizing that there are differences in the manner in which we communicate. Gender aside, women to women communicate differently. Men to men communicate differently. So I just think that it's important that we're recognizing that not everybody is the same.
Right. And I personally, so I love people. Mm-hmm. And my personal thing is I see you as the individual and try to, granted, I've done, when I worked for Target Corporation, they had tons of, they had like Thomas Kilman, how to deal with conflict and what types of different people, how they deal with conflict. And I have a lot of EQ, I feel, so I can approach people differently.
Sure.
But it takes a lot of time and practice and patience, and patience is something I actually don't have.
Yeah, I don't either. Not very much.
Cheers to that.
Cheers to no patience. Absolutely.
So how about conflict? I'm assuming you are well versed on conflict. What is the appropriate way to mitigate conflict if you're in a workplace or?
Again, everything stems around communication. And if we're not communicating effectively in the workplace and we're not understanding each other's styles, then it's when these conflicts arise, we don't necessarily know how to deal with them appropriately. Not all people want someone to communicate to them in a really demeaning type way. And unfortunately, there's people in the workplace that do that. So how can we work together, even if it's an unpleasant situation, to really focus in on ourselves and how best people are receiving information?
Right. So how do we get people to internally get the courage to speak up when they're feeling uncomfortable and feeling conflict? You know what I mean? Because I've seen it throughout my career where people had conflict and then they would just avoid it. Because you've been in Minnesota long enough. There's a big passive aggressive type communicate, which is totally not how I was raised.
Right.
I was raised, my mom's deaf, and I learned American Sign Language before I learned English and learned how to talk. And it's a very direct language. And so over the years, people have said, gosh, are you from the East Coast? Are you from New York? I'm like, no, my mom is deaf.
Sure.
And I grew up just with a direct language, and that's how I communicate, and I can tailor it. But how do we get people to have the courage? Because really, it's kind of all about vulnerability, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So how can we help people feel okay being vulnerable to start this effective communication?
So I think a lot of it starts with leadership, and it starts with examples.
Absolutely.
And if you do not have an effective leader within your organization, that's going to be problematic. And the employees are going to have issues if they don't feel confident in their work environment to be able to learn from the higher ups. So I think it truly does start with leadership and understanding the importance of effective communication, that everybody has a say, that everybody has feelings and emotions, and just recognizing that if we put more time and effort into learning how each other communicates best, that ultimately that's going to increase the bottom line. That's going to help with productivity, and everybody's going to be better off.
Absolutely. So what about the generational differences that we have in the work? Oh my gosh, we probably have four for sure, maybe five generations in the workplace.
So research will say right now it is like that. So there's, we'll say there's 4 or 5 different generations, and kudos to my Ph.D. supervisor. He hates the word generations. So it's life stage or period effect.
Ooh.
right? So you can
kind
look
of
that
like
up,
that.
right? So he doesn't
Well,
like
yeah,
the
because
word-
I get labeled you're Gen X, you know.
Right. He also doesn't like millennials. He doesn't like that either. So kudos to you, Scott.
I love it.
Yes.
Well, it's a different frame of mind, really. It's going back to me seeing people for who they are versus this generation.
Absolutely. So, I mean, from a research perspective, at least what stemmed from my PhD study recently was that, yes, there are certainly differences, but a lot of it has to do with technology. So I always like to share the example of, somebody who is that older generation, that older cohort, will send a press release to a younger colleague for editing via email. But then she felt like she had to follow it up with a text message because the other person would be on their phone first before they would see the email come in. So she'd have to send a text message that would say, can you please go check your email? I just sent you a press release to edit. I need that by the end of the day.
That's so redundant.
Right? Right? But, and I think too, even some of the students that I teach on a daily basis, it is really different. They're afraid of face-to-face communication. Sometimes they tend to hide behind a screen. But on the flip side of it all, because we don't want to bash millennials or that generation, but on the flip side of that, the older generation really appreciates and values their insight from a technological perspective. And that, the older generation can learn a lot from the younger folks in their office as it pertains to technology.
Absolutely. And I love the variety. I think the variety gives you diversity in the workplace.
But I think too, just going off of that, it also, we do again, tying it back to that effective communication and communication styles in the workplace that, the younger generation and the older generation, I mean, it's different. So we have to learn to be able to communicate effectively with each other and recognize how to do so.
Absolutely. You actually, Amelia, bring up a memory I had. I worked for a search firm and my manager was to me, it felt micromanaging.
Right.
And I couldn't take it anymore. I finally stood up for myself and said, when you use these phrases or when you ask, and I was a top performer.
Sure.
And I said, when you use these phrases or when you do this, I feel like I'm being micromanaged. And he actually took the feedback so well, which I was scared shitless delivering the feedback as a young, mid 20-year-old. But I delivered it because I thought, if I don't do this, nothing's going to change. And I hate this. I love my job. I hate how he communicates with me.
Right.
So I took a stand and did it. After that, I helped the whole flippin' team because not only did he change how he was communicating with me, he had no idea. And he was a new leader.
Right.
The whole team then was happy because he had changed his what I considered micromanaging communication style. He totally flipped a switch.
And it's great though that you were able to do that and that he was able to make that switch.
Absolutely.
Because on the flip side of it, unfortunately, again, it goes back to my earlier comments about leadership. If you do not have an effective leader in place, that could have blown up in your face.
Right. Totally.
And that's just where, everybody, again, it goes back to just being able to communicate effectively.
Right. Exactly. I love it. So many companies are doing a push for gender balance with the work functions, right? Are you seeing progress or is this all smoke and mirrors?
It's a little bit of both. I mean, there certainly is progress, and I'll look at it from my research in regards to the public relations scene in and around the Twin Cities. There are wonderful women who are running agencies, they're running companies, they're that top leader that have worked their way up, and from that perspective, yes, we're certainly seeing women in these leadership type positions, but unfortunately, there's still gender inequality across the board.
Right.
My personal belief is I don't know if it will ever change. I think it will take men actually stepping down from their positions and letting a woman take their place for anything to be changed.
Fascinating.
Now, is that realistic? No.
Right.
But
well, and that's why I started my own company. So I was like, I don't need to be asked. I don't need you to determine my destiny. I'll determine my own damn destiny.
What I do think that though companies are doing really, really well with, so there's a variety of things. I use the word intersectionality when, all these axes, make up our identity. So your race, your socioeconomics, your gender, that all plays into one and your identity. Diversity, I think, is something that a lot of organizations are recognizing and doing good things with. So trying to get more diverse individuals into the workplace. And ultimately, that's going to create better projects, that better end result because you've got so many diverse opinions and thoughts on it.
Absolutely. It's super difficult though, because for example, we'll just use software development, software engineers. The amount of women that go into that field is so small. So it's like we almost have to start in the grade school, middle school, high school arena, which I think I've seen a lot of it in the schools that my daughters go to. There's a huge STEM emphasis. Sure. And I loved math and science. I wanted to be an engineer, and then I was like, oh, these people are not like me. But just because I like math and science, it's fine. We can foster and grow that. But yeah, have any thoughts on that with getting, more females involved in typically male-dominated fields?
Well, I think it depends. There's a lot to be said. So yes, I'm knowledgeable about the STEM programs and such and how they're bringing that into classrooms and encouraging young women to get involved in that sort of thing. But I also think there's something to be said about women empowerment. And you will see this frequently. I mean, there's so many different women organizations that we can be a part of. And I don't know if it's necessarily about, getting into these male-dominated spaces. If we're comfortable with who we are, how we are, and we have this powerhouse of women behind us, we're going to get into that industry. It doesn't matter if it's male-dominated or not.
Totally true. You're totally right. Totally right. So, Amelia, where do you get your inspiration from?
I think a lot of the powerful women that I interact with day to day. So there's an excellent organization called Passion Collective. You would be fabulous as hanging out with us, so you need to check that out. A lovely woman named Laura Best, came up with this concept, and it's fabulous. So
I want her last name.
Right?
Best.
I know, and she's British.
Awesome.
Yes, which is fabulous, and I knew that I would love her because our first conversation, she dropped the F-bomb in the first sentence.
Stop!
My kind of woman.
Mine too.
Cheers to you, Laura.
Cheers. Cheers to Laura and the F-bombs. The F word is the best word ever.
I know, my husband gives me trouble all the time about it, but it's just me, and so deal with it.
I know, I'm like, you can use it as an adjective, you can use it as a verb, you can use it as it's fantastic.
I know.
I have children, so I have to, we always say, forget about it.
Yeah.
That's what I say at my house.
I like that.
And then tell me about who you follow besides her, but any others that you really listen to. Like, I'm a huge Brene Brown fan.
Sure. To be very, very honest, I've spent the last 5.5 years of my life working full-time, having my first child, and completing my Ph.D. So I've had no time for anything else.
Cheers to that.
I really don't.
Are you fitting in time for yourself, though?
Yes, I do. I'm a lover of wine and yoga, so.
Perfect. Me too.
But I do. I would love to, now that I'm going to be submitting this to, get into more podcasts and books and read.
Yeah.
Read for pleasure.
Right.
Read for pleasure instead of academic journals.
Right. So what is your biggest failure and how did you overcome it? Or learning. Some people don't like the word failure.
Yeah, I have been very fortunate in my life that, to be honest, I haven't had a lot of failures. But to flip that,
everyone envies you right now.
No, they're not going to when I say my next comment. I would say the most challenging experience was beating melanoma when I was 32.
Holy crap! I did not know that.
Yeah. So I was diagnosed with melanoma at 32, stage 1, very preliminary. Didn't have to do treatment, just my lovely big scar on my forehead that with this new hairstyle I decided to rock.
And you rock it. It's adorable.
You can see the scar, but.
Cheers to that, girl.
Failure, not necessarily, but, challenging to, it was literally the biggest, curveball that life threw at me.
How did you, okay, tell us more. How did you overcome, we had someone else on that had cancer at 27 and held a corporate job, and how did you get through all of that?
Yeah, obviously, very, it was still back in Canada, so the treatment and everything was all there, the surgery that I had, but just the support of family and friends, and being very, very grateful that it was caught very early on,
right.
And then that was kind of it, so just that happened, went through the surgery, and then just continued on. So
awesome.
But now it's just a matter of all those skin checks and other things. So
yeah, crazy. What's the best advice you've ever gotten?
Oh, I will go to my dad. Live every day to the fullest.
Oh, I love that.
I know.
I
because
love your dad.
He's amazing. And there's so many, things in life. Like I just think of, Kobe Bryant and that devastating.
Oh my gosh.
And not that everything is celebrity based, but how your entire world can change in an instant.
Yeah, that was, well, because he's my age, and I went home, or when I found out, and I was talking to Dustin, my husband, I thought, are we doing everything we want?
Yeah.
Are we, and I totally am.
Right.
But I've defined my life, and I'm in charge of it, and make the choices that we make. But I'm like, I want to do a check-in with him to see. And then we were talking about, and I said, if you ever died, I would, and I tell my friends, I'm like, if Dustin ever dies, I will need all of you to come to my house, get my children to school, and get me out of bed somehow.
Right.
Because I don't know how I could go on, you know what I mean? I'm like, that's when I need critical support around me. But anyway, we're not going to talk about death and dying. We're talking about living life to the fullest.
Just living life to the fullest, and really, because we can say that, and even for myself, like I can say that, but recognizing, well, I probably don't live every day to the fullest, but I should really, wake up in the morning and think a little bit more about that. Now that I have time to think more about it,
right?
I will do that. Yes.
You've been a busy lady.
Yes.
So what's the best advice you can give to our listeners?
All right, it's tattooed on my foot. Live your passion.
Oh, I love you have a tattoo. You're committed.
Multiple.
I only have one. I need another tattoo.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Now we're going to go to the lightning round.
Oh.
Where I ask you questions very quickly, Amelia, and then you respond quickly.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm scared.
I think I finished my cocktail.
Almost.
That's a first. Damn mango. What is the first word that comes to mind when thinking of searching for a new job?
Passion.
Have you ever gotten a job through someone you know?
Yes.
Favorite question to ask when networking?
Oh. What are you passionate about?
Do you practice for interviews?
No.
Have you ever been fired?
No. Oh, no, I have.
Me
Let
too.
me think about that. No, I was from a movie theater when I was 15.
I was fired too from White Bear Bar. What's a job you wanted but didn't get? We're going back to Washington Square, girl.
I know. A job that I wanted that I didn't get. Probably early 20s in a PR agency.
What site would you go to if you were looking for a new job?
Yours.
I love it. What is your favorite thing about your career?
Educating people, whether it's students or adults.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
You passed.
Great.
Where can we find you?
You can find me on my website, ameliareigstad.com, or LinkedIn. Reach out, connect, but send me a personalized invite.
You
Don't
should
just reach
probably
out.
spell your name, your last name.
Reigstad, Reigstad.
Perfect. And
Yes.
thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for all the valuable information
great.
you've shared with our listeners
Thank
today. For all of you listeners who hate your Mondays and want a new
Cheers.
job, please go to careersandcocktails.com and you can learn where to purchase my book, I Hate Mondays, to help you find your next career. And we also have career coaching, resume writing, and I have been designated as a LinkedIn pro for all those various topics. And if you're a hiring leader who is frustrated and needs the secrets to finding the best talent, you can go to the same website to download my free guide. We have international listeners from all over the world,
Great.
so thank you so much. And please, 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 if you like our show, please give us a comment, rating on iTunes, and share it with all your friends. Until next time.
Cheers.
Cheers.